Podcast City Network.
Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to The Everett Lee Show. A shot of entertainment to the head. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the entertainment.
What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Everett Lee Show podcast. I am Everett Lee. Quick shout out to everyone who follows me on Twitter. You can follow me at the Everett Lower Score Lee, Facebook.com/the Everett Lee. Click that thumbs up, and of course, Podcast City Network, the official host of the Everett Lee Show podcast. Have a great program tonight lined up for you, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, I have on the line right now. He made some noise a few weeks ago, actually 2 or 3 weeks ago, if I can remember when it was. But he made some comments right after the Everett Lee Show on the Everett Lee Show Facebook page after the comments from Chris Rose, the KCW, Kentucky's Own Wrestling United States Champion. After he was on the podcast, he had some words to say. Then 2 days later on ELS Uncut, he came on by unanimously called in and had some words with the Chris Rose. And tonight I have him on the podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome to the program tonight Mr. Wrestling. Any other title you want to throw in there on him? Mr. Jeremy Rage. How you doing?
How we doing that? You and I know old Russell, he's out there listening somewhere, Deathmatch Russell. What's going on? Big shout out to him.
Yep. Shout out to Deathmatch Russell. He's always listening. He's always lurking behind the corner there, just listening and checking out what I do and stuff. But, I mean, not...
He's always not like that creepy brother peeking around the corner.
Yep. He peeking around the corner. That's what he's doing. That is. So he's probably tuning in tonight. He'll be probably putting some comments up on the chat here on the twitch.tv Podcast City Network Twitch channel. And we already have some viewers in, so he's probably one of them right now viewing. But shout out to David C. Russell at Deathmatch Russell Podcast. So, how you been lately since I last talked to you?
Been pretty good. Can't complain. Enjoying the Kentucky weather, and then made my way back full time with KZW, and made my way into Williamsburg, and they kind of kept me and Chris Rose separate from each other because I wasn't exactly under contract at that point in time with the company, and they knew what would happen if we went at it, so they kept us apart.
Right.
Ended up getting a hold of a buddy of mine there, B.W. Anderson, and we teamed up, and now we're about 2 weeks away from a World Tag Team title match.
Nice.
Coming up at the big March 30th Double Danger 4 show.
That's good. That's good, man. That's good. Getting some gold, man. Going after the gold. That's great. That is definitely great, man. I couldn't be more happy for you. Definitely couldn't be more happy
Well, I
for
mean,
you.
I've been a Grand Slam champion in about almost every company that I've worked, and KZW is one that I've won every championship but one in, and that's the big one, the World Heavyweight title, and I've got my eye on that one too. Just trying to wait and see what happens after Double Danger 4 and see what the company has lined out with all these big things they've got coming in, man. They've got some good stuff on the horizon.
They do. They have a lot of good things coming for fans' way, for Kentucky's Own Wrestling, because they got so much going on, and it's just going to be great. It definitely is.
Oh, yeah.
It definitely is.
They got a lot of irons in the fire, that's for sure.
Yeah, they do. They definitely do. And real quick, before we jump in talking about questions, we already have some people chatting on the chat right here. Dirty Deeds 817, shout out to you. He says hello, Rage and Everett. And Devin 052317 says I'm dying to see that match too. And
Shout out to Dirty Deeds and the other fan there that made the comment. Appreciate it.
Yep, and
I can't wait to get that match. If I get that match signed, I'm taking that strap. That's for sure.
That is. And Deathmatch Russell, like we talked about, he says, "What's up to Jeremy and Everett Lee?"
We figured he'd be poking his head out pretty soon.
Oh yeah, we did. We definitely did. We definitely did. So I want to roll into some questions I want to ask you here. Now, what was it like for you growing up in Manchester, Kentucky?
Man, it was. It was pretty much just your average small town. I mean, there's maybe a population of about 3,500 people, maybe if there's that. And I mean, it's just everybody knows everybody, small community. And I mean, everybody really does know everybody. You go into a restaurant, they know you. You go into the local store, they know you. It was good. I mean, I had a pretty good childhood. I grew up, four-wheeling and hunting, fishing, driving, working on trucks, working on cars. I mean, just my uncle, he was I guess he was the big highlight that got everything started for me. He was a wrestler, and I used to go every weekend and watch him do his thing. And growing up, it's pretty much all I wanted to do. Now, the rest of the family, they didn't take to it like I did, but I've had a cousin or two that's wrestled, and but mostly it was just me. I guess you can say I become the standout in the wrestling business for the family.
That's awesome. I like that. Now, what was some of your early wrestling influences growing up? Who'd you watch, and who'd you see on TV, and who caught your eye?
The biggest influence I had, I would have to say, if I was going to my top three, would be Ric Flair, Eddie Guerrero, and Chris Benoit. And I know, he's probably going to be a big tongue lashing about Chris Benoit, but you cannot deny the man's, in-ring accomplishments. Like, his career is just second to none. And he's a big influence on my the way I work now.
Right.
But there was nobody like Ric Flair growing up to me. Like, he was, I mean, he made a career making guys look good, and that's just, I always wanted to be that guy.
Right. I mean, he definitely did. I mean, Flair, I mean, he was dirty.
My God, yeah.
He was dirtiest player in the game. He had some great rivalries. I mean, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Dusty Rhodes, the American Dream.
That has to be his best rival to me, in my opinion, was him and Dusty Rhodes, especially the Starrcade '86 match that they had.
Yeah.
I mean, they pretty much, Dusty was fighting the Horseman. I mean, he wasn't just fighting Flair. Flair was putting the Horseman in his way every chance he got. And I mean, it made Dusty a star. It made Steamboat a star. I mean, that's just who Ric Flair was. He was the Mecca back in them days. He was the man, and he still is to me to this day.
Mm-hmm. He is.
Steve Austin. Steve Austin's another big influence of mine. Like, that's pretty much where I try to patent most of my promos and attitude from.
Yes, Steve Austin. Stone Cold Steve Austin, the Attitude Era. That was such a great time to be a wrestling fan because of the Monday Night Wars and everything that was going on.
Oh my
because,
God. Yeah, you had.
I mean, you could, if you weren't a wrestling fan during that time, and you didn't watch wrestling, you could always go back and watch it. But at the moment, being in that moment was just fantastic because there was so much shit that went on with rivalries and so many stars. Everyone that came out, they set the bar to where it was because you had Steve Austin, you had The Undertaker, Triple H, The Rock. You had the tag team was on fire, tag team division, Edge and Christian, the Hardy Boys.
The Dudleys.
The Dudleys. It was such a great time. And Steve Austin.
It was an amazing time to be a fan in them days. And, like, I feel sorry for some of the Millennium kids because they have to go back and watch that. And like you said, they wasn't there, like, as it was happening. Like,
right.
you had to tune in every Monday night just to see what was going on, and I was always one of those guys who would flip back and forth. Like when Raw would go to commercial, I'd see what happened on WCW, and then I'd go back. I mean, I was always flipping back and forth because any style of wrestling interests me.
Yes. Yeah, I did the same thing. I'm watching Monday Night Wars, and I end up just flipping through the channels, flipping back and forth. I'd watch first hour of WCW, then flip over 9 o'clock, watch Raw, Monday Night Raw, and then the next day I would get up and I would watch the last 2 hours of WCW Nitro because I taped it, because depending on what was going on and what was happening at the time, and that was just fantastic. Just fantastic.
Oh hell
time,
yeah,
man.
you didn't want to miss it, and I mean I'm guilty of the same thing, but I mean it's like when Luger did the crossover, because he was one of the first ones that did the crossover to WCW. Like you did not know what was going to happen that week, so you had to tune in just to see, and it was spectacular. Like I loved it.
Mm-hmm. I definitely did. Now, Steve Austin, Ric Flair, your favorites right there. What? When did you decide to become a wrestler? After watching wrestling and being a fan of wrestling growing up, when was the time you decided, you know what, I'm going to become a wrestler?
I'd have to say that I was around 12, 13 years old. I was in junior high, and my uncle and them had did a show here in our hometown of Manchester, and it was one of the first wrestling shows that took place at the time.
Uh-huh.
And I went to it, watched it, saw how the fans were just, because like my uncle, to me, he was just my uncle, he was just a normal guy.
Yes.
But to those people at that time, like he was like Ric Flair and those guys, and I always wanted that. So I was like, this is what I want to do. So I'm going to say probably around 12, 13 years old, like I pretty much had it in my head, this is what I'm going to do, and I started training almost immediately. That following year, I actually started training with him a little bit.
Nice. Now, I have a fan question here on the chat right here. Devin wants to know, what is the environment like in WWE compared to KZW? He's never been to a WWE show. I'm assuming that's what he's asking there. What are the shows like comparison?
There's just a few like little differences. Pretty much, I guess what you'd call cosmetic wise. But I mean, the atmosphere is pretty much the same. I mean, you have the fans who is roaring to have these shows because when the fans come in, they come in a little bit early, and they're sitting there, so they're getting anticipation. And then when they get the big clock countdown at the World Wrestling Alliance, they get the big countdown when the show starts, and they start counting along with it, and it gets everybody pumped. And then at KZW, they know when that siren goes off, they start instantly cheering and getting. I mean, the building sometimes shakes.
Yes,
and you can just feel it, and it instantly gets your blood pumping.
Wow,
it's a ride like you would not believe. I mean, it truly is.
That's great. That is great. I like that. I definitely like that. I kind of ask right there that what Devin asked goes into the next question I have. When you started out in wrestling, what were some of the early promotions that you did work for? Because you pretty much worked all over the place in Kentucky there and other places too, right?
Oh yeah. I've been to Kentucky, Tennessee, West Virginia, Chicago. I've been to Mexico. I've been pretty much about anywhere you can go except for like Japan and the UK. But the first promotion that I started in down here was the promotion actually that it was the same promoter but a different name that my uncle had worked for, and it was called KWA.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like maybe 2 miles down the road from my house, which was great because I could just instantly just get in the car. Like I had keys to the building. I could go train guys. I could go do my training. Like two guys that I started training there, like that graduated from the first class that I ever started training, was the Mad Hatter Crutch and Repic. And both of those guys has pretty much blew up in the last couple of years. I mean, Crutch alone in the last 5 years of his career has blowed up to become one of the hottest free agents in the state of Kentucky, and he has in my opinion, the best gimmick in the state, hands down, in the business. And then you have Repic on the other hand, who, he's kind of went down both roads, good and bad. But, he's finding his niche now, and he's actually one half of the tag team champions that I'm facing currently. So it makes for pretty entertaining matches and pretty interesting time to be in KZW right now, going up against a guy that I train.
Yeah.
Because we know each other so well.
Right. That'd be interesting right there, because he does Crutch. I had him on the podcast not that long ago, and really great guy. I love what he's doing with the Mad Hatter gimmick. I think that's the best gimmick
that's the best gimmick in wrestling. I mean, nobody can turn that down. Like, you really can't. I mean, no matter what mine his issues has been, like, he grabbed the niche and he had to scratch it, and he's blew up. He really has.
Yeah, he definitely has. He's I mean, he's pretty much blown up, and he's doing great. I love I love the gimmick. I love what he's doing, and I think it's really great that he's just the path and everything that he's going on, and going up against someone like you. That's gonna be interesting. I definitely would love to see that. And speaking of KZW, now you mentioned to me before that you worked in KZW, or you're around KZW back before it was Kentucky's Own Wrestling. It was named something else. What was that like?
Yeah, it was Killzone Wrestling back in those days. This was like 11 years ago.
Wow.
And it was a kind of a different atmosphere then, because it was just a new company getting started, so they really didn't have a whole lot. And I was I was in the position at that time. I was in 5 or 6 years, so I had a little experience under my belt, but I wasn't yet a veteran. I was just a seasoned wrestler, but I was one of the guys that they wanted to bring into that company to help build lay the foundation for some good work that they currently enjoy now.
Yes.
And I was the first KZW United States champion that night. At that first show, they crowned me the new U.S. champion. We had a tournament, and I ended up winning that 6-man gauntlet match. Now it's totally changed now, because it's went from a sourpuss of a promoter that really didn't want to help the guys and didn't want to really entertain the fans as much as pop the boys, to now getting in the hands of J.J. McGuire some years later, who all he wants is to give the fans what they paid to see, and he brings in the best wrestlers and the biggest names in the indies right now.
Yep. That's great. That is. He brought you in, man, so it can't get any better than that, can it?
No, that's what I was getting ready to say. I mean, he picked up Mr. Wrestling, for God's sakes, so I mean, you can't get much better.
Yep.
But this will be my third go-around with the company in my 16 years of wrestling.
Right.
I started there when the company first opened. I then left and went to Ring of Honor for a while. I came back and did some shots for like these little outlaw promotions, and like a couple promotions out of Perry County and Laurel County and places like the surrounding county, tri-state area, and then went to Tennessee for a couple of years and made some money up there, and then came back to KZW again, and then got the call to go to WWA. Went up there for about 6 months, 6 to 8 months, maybe not quite as long. Crutch was already there at that time, and me and him kind of butted heads for a little while there, and then I left and came back to KZW when it become under new management and better circumstances for Jeremy Rage.
Yes. Yeah. Man, ROH. What was that like, being up there wrestling in ROH?
It was almost like a non-believable time in my career. Like, I couldn't believe that I made it there because of the experience that I had at the time. I like out of place and felt like I didn't really belong there because I wasn't a spot guy. You know, I wasn't one of the flippy floppy guys. I was just a straight laced technician.
Yeah.
But
right.
you know, come to find out, they love all aspects of wrestling, and you know, I wrestled there for about a little over 2 years, but it was always dark matches. Like they never, because I wasn't the model wrestler, I guess. I wasn't the right height or the right build. You know, I wasn't tan. You know, I wasn't the Tom Cruise or the Brad Pitt looking guy. You know, I always got stuck in these dark matches and these little jobber out matches that really didn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And I just kind of was unfulfilled, you know. I knew I was better than what I was getting. You know, I was getting treated like a mushroom, getting fed shit and kept in the dark, you know, and I wanted to do more.
Uh-huh.
So when I saw opportunity to leave and go other places, I decided that's what I needed to do just so I could, you know, kind of open the doors and open the door and get my gears going, you know, better and get further out than what I did. And you know, that's what I'm currently working on now, is getting back to like Ring of Honor and NXT and places like that, like Impact Wrestling and stuff. Like, you know, I'm working on it.
You're working on it. It's you pretty much been wrestling for, you mentioned before, about 16 years. You've been wrestling for 16 years, and you've pretty much been all over the place except NXT and WWE. And I'm sure that's going to be a goal for you one day to make it, you know, take the steps and go in that direction, and one day eventually, you know, knock the door down in NXT, and then eventually they'll lead into WWE. And
oh yeah, I mean that's every worker or every wrestler's dream, is to make it to the WWE. I mean, if not, then what really are you doing? You know.
Yeah, it is. It's like Steve Austin said. Steve Austin said, "If you're not here to be the champion, why are you here? Why are you here?" You know.
That's exactly right. I mean, and it's the same way in the independent scene. Like, if you're in a company and you're not wanting to be the top guy or the world champion, then what the hell are you doing? You know, I mean, sure, you may have to pay dues and work your way up the ladder and stuff like that, but I mean, every title that you win or every win that you get is just another accomplishment that you can add to your criteria.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's true right there, because just the accomplishments in the belts and stuff. Now, here, talking about belts and championships. Now, I've heard many people say this. A belt. Mm-hmm. Does the belt make the man, or does the man make the belt?
In my belief, and this is just my belief,
mm-hmm.
the title does not make the man makes the title. If you are a true world champion, and you will make that belt mean so much, and you will give everything you have, whether it's win, lose, or draw, you will make that championship mean more. Now, if they put a world championship on you just to try and build that guy up, like it's not going to happen. Like, it's not going to work. That guy is not going to make it.
Right. There's been in the past, there's been some people, and I've seen, especially on big promotions and just over the years, just watching stuff where basically that they don't, like, they put a title on someone, and they don't really, you know, make the title. And when I see that, I wonder why they even did that in the first place. I figured they'd probably just help or something, but
my take from that is, usually when you have a promoter, he'll pick a guy, like, and it'll be his guy, you know, and he'll think that guy's going to be the guy that takes him to the next level.
Right.
And he'll throw that world title at him, and he gets the world title, and then he gets the superstar complex in his head, and he thinks that he's the cat's meow, and it falls flat. Like, they have you know, without burying him or saying any names, but they have an individual at KZW right now. He's only been in the business a few years, you know, maybe 2 or 3 years at best, as far as I know, and he goes off of where he come from, you know, because he was trained at a certain promotion that was on television and things. He thinks that, you know, that gives him the right to just sit and not really pay dues or not really earn his keep, and has the superstar complex and thinks he belongs in the main event when actually he belongs being the curtain jerker or the second match on the card.
Right. Definitely.
Now, me, myself, personally, I mean, I believe it doesn't matter how many years you've been in the business. I believe in getting out there, helping tear down. I mean, it's more of a respect thing for where you're at. Like, you know, if you're at a company, respect that company. You know, you help set it up, you help tear it down because you help make that company. And if you don't have any more respect for the company that you work for than that, then you really don't need to be there.
Yeah, true. I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. We're not talking about Chris Rose, are we?
No.
The Chris Rose.
I mean, I'll give him his due. I mean, you know, he's earned his U.S. title, and he's been a fighting champion. There's no doubt about that. He's just one of those guys that has that little cocky ass attitude that you just want to stick your foot down his neck just to shut him up. And I mean, myself personally, like, fans do not adore me in the least. Like, right. You know, I can start a rat just real quick.
Right.
But, you know, the position that I'm kind of in now, I'm kind of more comfortable with, because I'm pretty much biding my time until I see the opportunity to take that championship from Chris Rose. Then I'll move in and take the title from him. But as of right now, their tag team division in KZW just was not up to par to my level. And I feel like myself and B.W. Anderson, we could bring the tag titles up, you know, bring them up to par and take on any tag team in the state of Kentucky, Tennessee, anywhere.
Yep.
I always try to bring a division up to a certain standard, you know, and hold it up to my standard. And that's kind of what I'm doing right now.
That's great. That's great that you found someone to tag with and going after the tag team championship gold. I love it. I definitely.
Oh yeah, I mean,
I definitely do.
You got a second generation wrestler like myself, and then you have the Lost Anderson. You know, the Anderson he's from the Anderson bloodline, and I mean, they were some of my favorite wrestlers growing up. Like, it goes back to the Four Horsemen, you know, ONR and the Minnesota Wrecking Crew. I mean, my God, you know, anytime you get a chance to pick from that cherry tree, you better jump on it. You know, I mean, I've got more experience in the business than he does, but he has a plethora of knowledge that he can throw. I mean, he's like a friggin' wrestling encyclopedia.
Right. That's, I like that. I definitely do like that. Now, before we jump into more with Jeremy Rage, I want to give a quick shout out to the supporters of Podcast City Network right here on podcastcity.net. So you can check out these and many, many more that support Podcast City Network. And when we come back, we're going to discuss more with Jeremy Rage. So, ladies and gentlemen, stick around.
The following support and sponsor Podcast City Network. City Limits Tap Room, sports bar in DeLand, Florida, has brew on tap, serve food, the grilled cheese is excellent. For upcoming events, check out City Limits Tap Room on Facebook.com/City Limits Tap Room. Atlantic Sounds has thousands of new and used vinyl records and CDs. If they don't have it, they can order it for you. Same location since 1982. For more updates on what's new, check out Atlantic Sounds on Facebook.com/Atlantic Sounds Vinyl. Sports Sanity Customs have worked with organizations from custom embroidering polo shirts to jerseys for your kids' baseball team. They do it all. Armed with state-of-the-art equipment and an in-house design team, they are equipped to take on your next project. Visit their website to learn more, sportsanitycustoms.com. Visit Sports Sanity Customs on Facebook.com/Sports Sanity Customs. 3 Count Design offers a wide range of graphic design products, video, photography and other forms of media. Everything from t-shirt designs to websites. Visit Facebook.com/3 Count Design for more. Demo Blast Studios, an explosion of imagination. Original artwork, podcasts, video, apparel and more. Visit demoblaststudios.com. Visit Demoblast Studios on Facebook.com/Demoblast Studios, the best family entertainment pro wrestling show in the state of Kentucky. Kentucky's Own Wrestling brings quality family vintage wrestling to a town near you. Kentucky's Own Wrestling offers a ladies division in wrestling and a training school. Kentucky's Own Wrestling is the current longest running Southern promotion. Visit Facebook.com/Somerset Kentucky's Own Wrestling. All supporters and sponsors are brought to you by Podcast City Network.
You're listening to The Everett Lee Show.
I want to read some comments here on the chat. The chat's been going crazy, man. The chat is hot
awesome
tonight here on the Everett Lee Show. It's fogging up my damn glasses. That's what's happening. So far, Deathmatch Wrestle, I don't even know what he's talking about. Anyway, Devin, he's really not a fan. I'm trying to find out what's been going on here in the chat here. Dirty Deed says, Rage and BW have no chance against Sully and Repic. And Devin says, I love you guys. I love what you guys are doing, though. I love hearing these indie guys take on the business and everything. Well, that's a compliment right there. And what do you have to say about Dirty Deeds with you and BW going up against Sully and Repic?
Well, first of all, I'll say to Devin, I'll take that rub. I appreciate that. But to Dirty Deeds, I mean, just sit back and enjoy. And when we get our tag team title shot, there's not going to be no double count-outs. There's not going to be anybody getting involved. And you will see that Rage and Anderson will walk away your new KZW tag team champion.
There you go. There you go right there. You heard it from Mr. Wrestling, Jeremy Rage. You definitely heard that.
Buy you a front row ticket, Mr. Deeds, and record it because it's going to go down in history as the best tag team title run in history. You can believe that.
Nice. Now, we were talking about just here before, David, before we went to a break there. Now, we were talking about promotions such as ROH and the promotions that you worked for. Now, Who would you like to get in ring with that you haven't yet? We'll say a bigger promotion from WWE, NXT, ROH, and New Japan. Who would you like to get in the ring out of those promotions?
If I'm going New Japan, I'm probably going to say Kenny Omega, which is probably the most obvious answer for the most obvious reasons because right now he was on top. If we're going to say Ring of Honor, I'd like to have Samoa Joe from back in the Ring of Honor days. Like when he was the world champion, when he was on top of his game back in ROH. Like he was pretty much indestructible. I think that would be a great match. And then I'd say probably from WWE NXT area, probably Ricochet or Aleister Black. Maybe Cesaro, probably Seth Rollins. Like I would love to just get in the ring with guys that are to a higher caliber and like super athletic guys. That way I can, see if I could actually keep up with them or just shut them down.
Nice. Yeah, you mentioned Samoa Joe and Seth Rollins. Tyler Black, when he was in ROH, he was Tyler Black.
Yeah. I remember when I was there around that era when it was Joe, Tyler, Daniels, Austin Aries. Like I was around in those days, like Jimmy Rave and stuff. Like that's about the time that I struck the ROH scene.
That's awesome. Devin says, you can't forget about Adam Cole, baby.
Oh, well, no, you can't forget about Adam Cole, but I mean, I got to give the shout out to my boy Adam Cole. I've met him before, I've talked to him before. just like Kevin Steen, who is Kevin Owens now. Like I've had run-ins with those guys, and I've got nothing but respect for them, and they've always treated me fair. So big props to those guys.
Yep. Shout out to Game Over Talk Show. Hello there. Shout out from Everett Lee to Game Over _Talk Show. Now, Jeremy, what do you think about AEW, the new promotion that everyone's been talking about on social media? Everyone's been buzzing about that, talking about their upcoming pay-per-view coming up, Double or Nothing. The talent that they've signed already to the promotion. How do you feel about the talent they've signed to the promotion, and what do you look forward to from AEW?
I look forward to some of the great matches that's going to be put together, like matches that's been never before seen. Mm-hmm. And as far as the talent that they've signed, the talent that they've got now is mostly indie guys. Right. And they're bringing these indie guys up to the next level, and I'm guaranteeing you that by this time next year, maybe sooner, we could be seeing an AEW, WWE Monday Night War thing going on again. We could be reliving some glory days, and it's great to me. The more promotions that are around, like those big high-stakes promotions such as WWE and AWE and stuff like that, they, you're satiated with different caliber of wrestlers, and you get introduced to new wrestlers. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's a great, it's a great time to be a wrestler right now. Wrestling's coming back in a big way.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. It is coming back in a big way. It definitely is coming back. Dirty Deeds says, "Will Ambrose go to AEW?" That's a good question there. What are your thoughts on that?
That's a good question, but I mean that's kind of one that only Ambrose could answer. I mean, I would say that if he didn't just join back up with the Shield, from what I gather on social media and stuff, like I would say he would probably have signed the contract with them, because WWE kind of have had him floundering along, misusing him for a while.
Yeah, right. That's one of the problems. That was one of the problems that Ambrose had here with WWE is late, because the misuse of his character, the misuse direction with what they're doing with him, he's been unhappy. Just like many other talents that's come and gone in WWE, especially with Cody Rhodes, Jack Swagger. Those are two examples there. I was reading something up on Jack Swagger talking about how from 2008 to 2018, it was no rest. It went by quick. And he pitched an idea to Vince, and Vince said he would keep it in mind. And the pitch was he'd leave, go do MMA, come back, and then get into it with Vince, because Vince said he couldn't do it, and then he'd go off and do it and come back. But Vince said, yeah, that's a great idea, but you're not doing it with me. Do it to someone else. And then he realized it was time to go. Ambrose, he's done so much for the company. And
oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, he has. Fans love him. Fans hate him. And that's just great.
Well, I mean, that's a mark of a true, in my opinion, a true thoroughbred wrestler and a true champion. Like, if you can go out there and you can make people, like Chris Jericho, he could go out and make people love him for 1 second and hate him the next. I mean, that comeback he did back in the day in like 06, 07 era, when he came back as the suit and tie, the best in the world Jericho, and won the world title and feuded with Shawn Michaels. I mean, when he first came back, he never even spoke on the microphone, and people was loving him.
Yeah.
Having the most massive pops of anybody there. And then the next week he come out and they friggin' booed him out of the building. I mean, if you can do that, you're doing your job.
Yeah, you definitely are. You definitely are. Game Over _Talk Show says he don't know. He don't see him going to AEW unless they offer him a better pay with a better contract. That's true. That's true. If they give him a good contract, good pay, he'd go to it. But Dean Ambrose recently did turn down a 5-year deal with a 7-figure pay, and he turned it down. It's not about the money. It's just
it's not about the money.
For him.
It's more or less about the freedom that they sometimes when you work for WWE and places like that. Like you have such a hectic schedule that sometimes you get to enjoy little bits of freedom, and I think that that's more or less what they're after right now, is just getting to where they can actually go home for a week or go home for a few days and enjoy time with their family.
Yeah, I believe that, because the schedule and the workload and stuff. And that's one thing with AEW talent they're concerned about. Wrestling don't have an off season, and I have not heard I've heard that before, but it's not the first time I've heard wrestling having an off season. They should have an off season. Impact Wrestling, for a while the Hardy Boys stayed with Impact because they didn't have to work so many days, but they still got in and did TV and did their matches, but not on a hectic, almost 365 days a year schedule like WWE. And that would probably be a big difference right there, because having them take time off, re-energize, and then coming back like Lucha Underground, they did their whole thing with seasons. They definitely did.
Yeah,
they definitely did that. Now, Devin put up on the chat here, he said CM Punk, on the other hand, he could see him showing up in AEW. I doubt that.
I don't think so, because they reached out to CM Punk once, and when they reached out to Phil, he turned them down like pretty much instantly. Like, I think he's pretty well done and happy where he's at.
Yeah.
Like, I think if he was to go back anywhere, I think he would go back to his roots at like Ring of Honor and like rebuild that company and bring it back to the forefront of where it once was.
Well, if you do think about this, Colt Cabana is still in Ring of Honor. I don't think he would go back there, because they had a falling out with their friendship with that lawsuit with WWE.
See, I wasn't aware of anything like that, but I mean, the Second City Saints back in the day, I mean, I don't know, like, the friendship in the business, like, it's a rare thing to find, because anybody can get jealous of a spot, or anybody can get jealous of a certain spot on the card, you know, if one gets higher than the other one, you know. But like, you very rarely find true brothers and true friendships in the business, to where doesn't matter which one goes or what happens, like, the other one's always backing them or always proud of them. And I found a couple in the business like that, but like I said, a couple's only two.
Right.
And I mean, I've been at it for 16 years, and I mean, you'll have friends that come and go, and you'll have these friends that get jealous of a spot that you get because you've had another title run that they didn't get, or you got an opportunity that they didn't get that they felt slighted on. And I mean, it's a vicious circle. It really is.
It is. I've heard that, because everyone's looking for a spot. Everyone has or wants a spot in a promotion, on a card, and having that goal, being the top guy of a company.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
what we talked about.
That's usually everybody's goal.
Right.
But I mean, some people that has that inhibition, which is great to have, but some people just doesn't have that connection or that spark, or they just don't have the skills. You know, they're just not up to par to get to that level.
Right.
And I mean, it's not a dig at anybody or anything, but I mean, like, if you've been in the business longer than, 7 years or so, and you're not reaching that main event level, like, maybe you're just doing something wrong or bass backwards that you need to correct. I mean, sometimes it's easy to point the finger of blame in the business at the promoter or the pencil or somebody like that, instead of just looking at the guy in the mirror.
Right. Maybe it's time to freshen up a gimmick. Maybe it's time to do something, or if not, then move on to someplace else, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, there's always, like I said, there's always other opportunities and other promotions out there that you can go and make a name for yourself, come back to a promotion that you was once at, and, be a top guy and be a star. But,
right.
I mean, that's like the case that I was in a position at KZW once before where I was U.S. champion. I was the longest reigning U.S. champion at the time. And when I left, it was just, we couldn't agree business-wise. And I left, went to the WWA, made a bigger, made an impact there, made a name for myself there, and then came back, fresh and hotter than ever.
Right. And there's people that always do come back, for instance, talking about promotions, talking about let's throw Bret the Hitman Hart. Bret Hart. He left.
That's another.
Yeah, he was great, man. He was a great in-ring technician. He was great.
I've met the man twice in my career, and he signed my boots that I wear to this day.
Nice. I like that. He's great. He left WWE, went to WCW, and then 12 years later, he came right back to WWE.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it happens.
And I mean, that's like he had like the reverse effect. Like he was on top in the WWE, and when he went to WCW, he kind of fell down to like mid-card status. You know, they misused one of the greatest technicians in the history of the business.
They did.
And when he came back 12 years later and buried the hatchet with Shawn Michaels, like, did you hear the reaction he got that night? Like, it was bigger than anything I'd ever seen.
It was. I remember watching that. I was like, damn, man. He called Shawn Michaels out. Shawn Michaels comes out.
Oh, I got goosebumps.
Yeah.
Like, I was watching it, and I started freaking. It's like when Hulk Hogan comes back, you know, every little guy and every child and the grown man comes out, and it's the Hulkster, brother, you know, I mean.
Yeah, it definitely is. It is. I was a Hulkamania fan when I was a kid. I still am. It's still part of me. I'm still a Steve Austin fan. I'll tell you what I really got goosebumps was when Triple H. Remember right before, this was right when they acquired WCW. And after WWE acquired WCW, and then they were getting ready to start the invasion angle. Triple H tears his he has
his quadricep.
That's it. That's the name I was looking for. The quadricep. I was like saying quad, but yeah. He tore that, and he was out. He was actually out through the whole invasion angle, the whole thing. He came back.
Yeah, he missed everything. He missed everything.
He
was out for over a year.
He didn't miss much though, but I mean, I hate to say that.
I mean,
that was a bad time.
If they would have took that invasion angle and had the right guys, and got the bigger contracts, like brought in like a Goldberg and things like that at the time, like they could have done so much with that invasion angle, and they totally dropped the ball on that.
They did. They had mid card guys in there. That was the thing. But when Triple H announced it in January, he was coming back, and when he came back to the Garden, the roof blew off the Garden, and then when he announced,
the cameras were shaking, like the friggin' the stage cameras that was on the booms. The fans were so loud that they had the cameras shaking.
They were, and my dad, God rest his soul, he was sitting there watching with me, and when he announced using the Royal Rumble, he was like, hell yeah. He's like, there's your next world champion. And then when Kurt Angle
how ironic was it when he took out Steve Austin, they paired up as the two-man power trip, and then when he came back at the Rumble, who was the guy in the ring that he came out on? Steve Austin. I mean, I can see it. I can just close my eyes and I can just remember watching that pay-per-view, thinking, you know, who's going to win? Because it was always a toss-up to me between Triple H and Steve Austin, like who was the man.
Right. Who was going to win it? Who definitely was going to win it? And talking about coming back to WWE, Dirty Deeds mentioned in the chat about Batista coming back and him and Triple H at WrestleMania. I want to say this. Drax the Destroyer versus Thanos, WrestleMania 35. Because don't Triple H kind of in a way look like Thanos if you really look at it, the way his head is and everything, and then you got Drax the Destroyer.
But I credit Batista coming back, and a big part of that to Bruce Pritchard coming back to the World Wrestling Entertainment, because he come back in a pretty good high power of like creative. And he's like Vince in a way, like he wants to bring in these big beefy guys and these names and you know, think that the company was kind of on a downward spiral right now, which they have some of the most athletic guys you've ever seen. Like they've got Prince Devitt, Finn Balor, you know, I mean they've got guys that can do amazing things in that ring if they would just push them.
Exactly.
And it's just because they're not 6'6" and 300 pounds of roided up, hoopla.
Mm-hmm. That's true. That's true. But having Batista come back, and he's been talking about it for a long time. He wants to come back. He wants to do something with Triple H. The time popped up. He's not out making any more movies. He's pretty much, I believe, he's pretty much done with anything like for Avengers or anything like that.
Yeah.
Because that's pretty much it's been wrapped up. It's ready to go, and next month we'll be seeing the Avengers Endgame coming out, and we'll find out the fate of everybody and stuff. But besides that,
I'm a big nerd when it comes to Marvel and DC. Like,
oh, I am too. I am too. Do you ever watch the CW shows Arrow, The Flash, Supergirl, Legends of Tomorrow?
Yeah. I've checked out Arrow and The Flash. Supergirl, not so much of a fan of.
Yeah.
But that's just because I was always a big Christopher Reeve Superman fan, and I was like Supergirl is cool, but like the way they told her story in the CW's version is not how I remembered it going in the comic book days.
Yeah.
Like she's so much, she was a teenager or like 19, 20 years old back in the day in the comics when Kal-El got sent to the Earth.
Right.
They got sent together, and the explosion kind of blew them apart. And now they have Superman older than her, and like it just kind of dulls the story for me a little bit.
Yeah. Well, one of the things is it's because she ended up in the Phantom Zone, or she got lodged somewhere, so she didn't age. Clark aged, and that was kind of weird how that happened and stuff. But I was looking at, I got a tweet today from I follow one of the executive producers of Arrow. He put a tweet out there today saying that season 8 is going to be the final season of Arrow.
See, that's killing me. Like, they took the Punisher, and the Punisher is my all-time favorite superhero. I'm sorry, but he is. And they give it 2 seasons, and then they just leave us on a cliffhanger, pretty much. I mean, that's killing me how
it's coming back.
Great.
It's coming back. I know it, like the cliffhanger, it leaves you on the cliffhanger there. A lot of people's been whining about and complaining about. Netflix took Punisher, Iron Fist, Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Daredevil. Disney's coming out for streaming service because they own that. Yeah,
like it's a Disney thing. Like I guess Disney's gonna like do their own network or whatever and throw all these things back together. But it's all just a big money racket in the end.
Yeah. So,
but see, that's like my character when I wrestle. Like I've done Venom. I'm doing Superman this Saturday coming. I mean, I do different ones each time I come through that curtain. I'm dressed a different way every time.
Nice. Dirty Deeds has another question here. Who would win in a fight between Frank Castle and Batman?
Frank Castle. Frank Castle would, because Batman has that won't kill anybody mentality, and Frank Castle will just fucking blow his ass up.
Yeah, I can imagine like this: Batman drop down in front of Frank Castle. I'm Batman.
Yeah, next thing you know, he's got a grenade launcher shoved through his chest and blowed out the backside of his fucking head.
What was that? Huh? I couldn't hear you because my gun was killing you.
Yeah, who'd you say you was again? That's right, you're fucking dead. Turn around, walks off, Frank Castle's the man.
Yeah, Frank is great, man. He definitely is. One of my favorite bands, Megadeth, on their first album, Killing Is My Business and Business Is Good. That was all, and even the song. It was a pun to the Punisher, and that was such a great
right.
song.
I'm glad you know that. I'm over here marking out for that shit right now because there's not many people know that.
Yeah, not many people do know that. Killing Is My Business, Business Is Good. It was all a tribute and a nod to the Punisher. Even the song, because even the lyrics, if you listen to it, He's talking about 10,000 now, 10,000 later after I do the job, because killing is my business.
That goes back to the what was his name? He played in the Rocky movies when he played the Punisher. About around the time that song came out was
Dolph Lundgren.
Dolph Lundgren, yes.
Yeah, Ivan Draco, I must break you.
Yeah, I must break you.
Yeah, I must.
You ain't gonna break nothing.
I mean, he broke Apollo Creed.
Well, I mean, yeah, but Apollo just wasn't ready for him like Rocky was. Like Rocky had that, he had killed his friend, and like Rocky had the motivation, where Apollo just wanted to get in there and show off and show everybody, that he was the best. And I mean, Drago did him in.
Exactly.
And that damn Dirty Deeds is talking way too much. Like he's starting to piss Mr. Wrestling off. Like I know he has to be a fan.
He's a fan.
He has to be a fan.
He's a fan. But one thing, Devin has a question for you here. What inspired you to come out to "I Stand Alone" by Godsmack?
Well, my brother, his name was Kendall. He passed away in 2011. Godsmack was his favorite band when they first came out. Like, that was the first concert I ever went to. And when that song came out, I was just starting to get big in wrestling, like just starting to get a good name going, a good reputation. And he said, that should be the song that you use, because, he wanted me to be that I stand alone kind of character.
Right.
And, I just listened to it and I loved it, and I've used it ever since.
Nice.
I've never changed it. I'll never change it. Like when I worked for the WWA, I had to change the music, but simply because of the TV station that they had and things of that nature at the time. Like there was pirating issues and trademark infringement issues and things like that. But I mean, Godsmack's "I Stand Alone" has been the number one song that I've always used.
Nice. I like
My
that.
brother picked it out, and I stuck with it.
I like it. It's a good song too. They used it for the Scorpion King movie, Rock.
Yeah, that's another place where we had heard it at. Like I had, that's when that movie had came out. Like he heard it on the end of that movie, and then was like looked it up and listened to it, and he's like, "That's you, man." And I mean, it's just got a sentimental part, to my life and what connects my life to wrestling. So I always have his name on my arm, on my wrist tape and stuff when I wrestle. So I've kept the song.
I like it. Good way to remember and pay tribute, to your brother. It reminds me of Charlotte. She lost her brother, and right before she mentioned right before she'd go out from gorilla position to the ring, she would say a prayer to her brother before she'd go out, because it was.
I have to say I'm guilty of the same thing.
Because it was a dream of both of them to be wrestling, and
oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's like some of the gear that I wear belong to my uncle. Like, I mean, it's got to be over like 20, 30 years old. Some of it is. Like, but, it was the gear that he wore, and, I feel like it's my best way I can, like, remember him and pay tribute to my uncle is wear his gear, just like the music thing with my brother.
Nice. I like that. I definitely do like that. What upcoming events do you have coming up?
Actually, we got this Saturday, March the 9th, One Lucky Son of a Gun, the show is called, and they're doing some kind of little special thing for kids and stuff at that show. I'm not quite sure of the full details on that one. So that's just one of those, buy a ticket and see what happens. And then March 30th, one of our biggest shows of the year is the Double Danger 4, the Double Ring Battle Royal. That is March 30th, and it is that is going to be where you'll see some of the biggest names in the state come out of the woodwork, and maybe some past glory guys that's retired or been in the Hall of Fame or something like that, and they'll, you never know who's going to pop up at those, and it's always an interesting time to be a wrestler around those shows.
Nice. And right before we close up this podcast here, Jeremy, where can people find you on social media at?
You can find me as Jeremy Ray G Step on Facebook, and I have an Instagram, and so far that is the only two that I have. I don't do Twitter or nothing like that, but Facebook and Instagram, you can always find me. Jeremy Ray G Step on Facebook and Jeremy E Step 31 on Instagram.
Nice. I had a great time talking with you, the fans tonight. I like to give a shout out to all of them on the chat there with the questions and the interaction. It's great because you got fans that come on, and I love how the interaction we had tonight with you guys. And I want to actually, one last question before we close out the podcast. This is the last question.
All right.
Devin. Oh, okay. That wasn't a question. It's a talk going back before Devin and Dirty Deeds. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I misread it wrong because my glasses.
We've got fans with heat now, brother.
It's always good. Save it for the show.
Yeah.
But I want to thank you for coming on tonight, man. It's great having you come on and talk and having you call. Actually, I know when you're calling in and not like last time with you just randomly calling in and just going at stuff. But
I apologize about that, but I had to. Like, I'm one of those guys. If you throw my name out there and it comes out wrong, I'm going to get your ass. So yes. Chris had that one coming. I mean, yes, it was a big surprise on your show, and I apologize for interrupting you, but it had to be done.
That's fine. That's definitely fine. But thank you for coming on tonight. I do appreciate it, and I do appreciate those viewing in and tuned in tonight for the podcast here of the Everett Lee Show. Shout out to H_Fairfax. You love the show. Thank you. Love you for checking out Everett Lee tonight here on twitch.tv/Podcast Network. And, of course, you can follow more Everett Lee over on podcastcity.net. Head over to podcastcity.net.
That lady, that H. Fairfax, that is Harley from KZW. That is your new KZW Women's Champion. That is a girl whose story definitely needs to be told. That is one that you should definitely think about getting on the podcast next.
Oh, yeah. Hit me up on Messenger. Hit me up or go through Jeremy and any of the guests I've had on the Everett Lee Show. Love to talk to you. Love to get you on here. I love to get you on here.
Mr. Lee, it's been a pleasure, and thank you for having me again, brother. And anytime you want to go through this again, we can book it and get it done.
Yes, we can. We definitely can. And before I go, I want to let people know they can check out Podcast City Network over on Facebook, Podcast City Network, and on Twitter there at Podcast City Net. Hit us up, subscribe to the YouTube channel, Podcast City Network. You can check out this podcast and many, many more podcast video and audio portions over on the YouTube channel. Hit that subscribe button right there. And you can subscribe to Everett Lee Show on Stitcher Radio, Libsyn.com, and iTunes, or they call it Google Play nowadays, however you want to look at it. And you can follow Everett Lee over on Facebook, Everett Lee Show, and on Twitter at the Everett_Lee, and subscribe to Everett Lee YouTube channel for the audio portion of this podcast. And Instagram, Everett Lee Show. And that is it, ladies and gentlemen, for the podcast tonight. Thank you, Jeremy Rage, for coming on. Everett Lee signing off. Everyone have a good night, and we'll see you next week on Thursday edition of the Everett Lee Show. Peace.